What's up, guys? Despite the fact that I promised myself I would never become a dumping ground for my friends' bikes that need to be fixed, that appears to be what is happening. The DRZs, or the DR650 is finally gone. This bike right here is an 08WR. It belongs to the AK-47s. And apparently he was riding home one day, and then all of a sudden the bike died. And so now, if you hit the starter, that's the noise it makes. And that noise is indicative, because if we grab, because there's no resistance even when I crank it by hand, which means that compression has all but left the body here. And so we're going to try to diagnose what happened, and so we can provide him a way of fixing this thing. So one of the things is I got to make some space, clean up the garage here for a minute, because I got to try to make sure I keep track of all of his bolts and nuts and stuff. Because again, it's not my bike, so I need to make sure it's done properly. I should have known this would be more complicated. I forgot that this generation of WRs have this crazy aluminum frame, and he's got all of his wiring running through here, so it makes it really difficult to get to the spark plug, and the valve cover and stuff. So I pulled the spark plug, and first bit of good news is that this spark plug has been running way too rich, but it's not shredded. If a valve had dropped, the spark plug would be all beaten up because there have been pieces of metal flying around in there. So now I'm going to drop the compression tester in there and just see what kind of reading I get cold. Generally, compression is done on a hot engine, but since I can't actually get this to start, it'll give us an idea. Cold compression, you should see north of 100 psi on a big single. If there's no compression on the motor, I'm going to see like 10 psi or something. So thankfully this has got electric start, which makes it a little easier. So I'm going to get my compression tester out and we're going to thread it down there and see what we get. So the way a compression tester works is you have this rubber tube that goes down and basically screws in tightly with an O-ring where the spark plug used to go. And then you have this gauge, and what this gauge does is it measures the amount of pressure put onto it by the piston going up and down. So if I hit the starter, you should see the compression start to jump if the bike is healthy. As you can see, it doesn't even move the needle. There's no release at all, which means that this bike has absolutely zero compression at the moment. So the next step is to pull the valve cover and see what's going on with the cams and the timing. So to get these two bolts out that hold the valve cover in, I ended up having to remove these engine braces. And now the valve cover lifts up, but it's going to take some more finagling and such to get it to actually come off. That way I can set TDC down here and take a look at where the cams are. So what we've done now is we've gone down here, and you can see in there we've set TDC using the crank. And now up here, what we're looking for is those alignment marks right there, and then there's one right there at the top of the cam. And then there's matching ones on the intake side at 12 o'clock and at the line. And there are, in fact, you can count these little rivets. There should be on the WR, there should be 13 between the two uppermost markers. On the YZ, there are 12. And that all shows up okay. However, after I cranked it a little bit, in some of the oil, there was quite a bit of debris. Something has definitely failed inside of this engine, I think, because there was pieces of metal inside of the oil. So that's where we're at. I'm going to reassemble this for him, and I'm going to drain off all of the oil and see what that looks like. But chances are not super duper high of success here because there's no compression and the whole top end looks okay. I mean, I guess it could have dropped one of the valves, but the lifters are working as they're supposed to. So that means the valve springs are working as supposed to, which means the valves are okay. The piston is in there, moves up and down, but it might have been chipped or broken. And I have no way really of knowing until we pull all of the fluids out of it. Well, this is the total sum of the oil that I pulled from the engine. Now, I don't have the service manual in front of me, but if I remember correctly, it should take about 2 quarts or 2.4 quarts, something like that. And this, I would say this is about a cup at best. And as you can tell, it's real black. It's kind of gritty. You can see there's some particles floating around in there. There's a lot of junk attached to the magnetic plug. So, no compression, no oil, horrible condition in general, leads me to believe that this is a cracked piston. And in a minute, I'm going to make a phone call. That's probably not going to be a whole lot of fun.